Gaming's not a hobby. Gaming's a way of life, a drug, an addiction. And this is the extra content to keep you moving. This is your Day 2 update. What's up, everybody, and welcome to our show, Day 2 Update. We are here to make sure that you have all the content that you need to keep you going. We are just a couple of guys, 3 to be exact. Mike, a.k.a. Linking Sponge, Rafe, a.k.a. Logan Phoenix, and myself, a.k.a. Hulking Yoda on Xbox, or if you're on PlayStation, Dante's Edge. We are a trio of average gamers who are constantly behind in the day-to-day gaming release schedule. We do our best to keep up and do what we can, but for those of you that are out there like us who are always feeling like you're behind on your gaming, we are here to let you know you are not alone. We have ironically been going on a 4+ year group text message that has kind of formed into this podcast. So we are here to share our love of gaming and our conversation with the world. And this is our first crack at it. And we wanted to start out with something big. So our decision was, what better way to kick off a podcast about gaming than E3? What is bigger than E3 for any gamer? And any time of year you talk about E3, you get excited for it if you're a gamer. You always anticipate what announcements are going to be made, what great games are going to be released and announced, and is there going to be a price drop, or a new console announced, or what new features are going to be added this year to my favorite console, my favorite network. And that's one thing that we wanted to do, is focus on this episode all about E3. E3 is right around the corner today, June 4th. 5 days away from the official start of it, with EA's press conference, June 9th, this Saturday. So to get you guys even more hyped into it, we wanted to do our own show dedicated to nothing but E3. We're going to talk about what we're most excited for, what game we're most looking forward to, who we think is going to come away with the crown and be the E3 king, as far as whether it's Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo. We're going to talk about the developers and what the developers have, whether the leaked info we feel is accurate or if it's just all fluff. But we have everything you want to talk about, hopefully, in this episode, and we will kind of jump right into it here. Rafe, what exactly what gets you excited about E3, man?
Man, I'm going to tell you, the biggest thing for me is the game reveal. And I'm going to throw this out there. I love trailers. Like, I definitely think that's a cool way to bring the hype in. But I'm looking forward to some actual gameplay trailers, like Death Stranding. 3 years now, it's like, come on, man, let's see some gameplay. What kind of game I'm playing? But I tell you what, the number one game I'm looking forward to see. If you'd have asked me a week ago, I'd have said, absolutely, I do not want another Assassin's Creed game. I loved Origin, but the 2-year break or the year break was perfect. I want to see, like another break. But then, there's a 10-second clip of, Odyssey out there. And now I'm like, oh yeah, dude, that's my number one. I gotta see more on that. So that's the number one thing I'm most excited for.
Like, I was right there with you on that. I had agreed with you. I said, okay, Ubisoft has learned. They don't want to do successive years of Assassin's Creed, burn the fan base out, and then, man, they are coming out with. But I gotta tell you, yeah, you're right. That Odyssey looks like it could be some really good stuff. What are you most looking forward to this year? What gets you excited about E3, man?
The press conferences, the Xbox and the Sony. I know for me this year, what they've already talked about, but I'm really looking forward to a new Skate, Elder Scrolls remake of Morrowind. I would love to see, or even a new Elder Scrolls. I know they haven't mentioned it yet, but for me, man, I want some 4K content. I'm
gonna jump in there, Mike. I'm so with you on Skate. I just worry that in my head that's like some mock-up screenshot somebody threw up there, and I'm gonna be all giddy for it, and come, next Thursday, Friday, I'm gonna be going, damn, there's no Skate 4. Because I'm still, you guys know, the last couple weeks I've been playing the heck out of some Skate 2. So I'm zoned, man. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for Skate 4 to get announced and then to shoot up my most wanted list. But yeah, man, that's the scary thing about rumors and the day and age we live in with the screenshots where you're thinking, oh, this is gonna be dope, and then you find out, yeah, that's just some dude with mad Photoshop skills messing with you.
So let me ask you this, Rafe. Would you be more upset if there is not a skate, so you got no skateboarding, or would you be more upset if they say, hey, there's no skate, but hey, we got a new Tony Hawk. We got Tony Hawk 42 coming out.
So, all right, you guys know how I am about the Tony Hawk series. Like, I really dug Thug. So if you're talking about Underground 1, right, not 2, because that game sucked. You're talking about Underground 1, and this is the new feel we got. I'm so down with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want Skate 4, but I will settle for Tony Hawk because I feel like it could redeem itself. But Skate to me is on a whole new level, and it's because of the controls. Like, I like the intricate controls that I'm nowhere near mastering. But so across the street from me, I got a kid who skateboards every day, right? And I've watched him try to grind like a rail over and over and over again for like days. And that's what Skate to like the game is. Like you'll see like a little trick. I want to do this trick. And you'll spend days trying to do this trick as opposed to doing story missions or anything else. And that's what I love about it. Tony Hawk, the entire series, the biggest thing I tried to do was in the first Thug, I tried to get 1,000,000 points grinding or doing a manual. I mean, that's kind of like encompassing it for me. The difference, like Skate, you really get into. So I'd be cool with it because I would just love a skateboarding game. But
I gotta say, man, it just sounds like the kid across the street from you is a loser because I've never skateboarded. And I can guarantee you, I can hop on a skateboard and start grinding in the neighbor's house and jump down and do a 360 on his tree and then manual to New York. So
man, as a kid, I'm not gonna lie, as a teenager after playing Tony Hawk, I bought a skateboard and I was like, this will be easy. Dude, I to this day cannot understand how somebody can get a skateboard to go in the air, and have it connected to your feet. That just doesn't get me. I just fell off all the time. So that's why I go the digital route of skateboarding. So what about you, Bo? What are you most excited to see?
Well, for me, I kind of fall in there with Mike, man. I love the press conferences. For me, the press conferences, they get me real excited and kind of give me goosebumps and anticipation. I love seeing the announcements. Unfortunately, nowadays with leaks every 5 seconds, a lot of stuff that you see at the show is usually already been announced or leaked in some way, shape, or form. Every now and then they'll slip through some secrets, which is pretty cool. But I would say a big thing for me, per company, I'm really looking forward to, say for Xbox specifically, I really want to see some unannounced, and I want to stress unannounced console exclusives. And what I mean by unannounced is everybody already knows that there's going to be at some point a new Halo, a new Gears. There's already been talk about a new Fable coming out because they've hired this development team that's focused on AAA RPG. So we know those things are probably somewhere down the pipeline. But what I want is I want something new that's exclusive to Xbox, something to get people interested in Xbox again. And just to clarify for the listeners out there, I love every system. So I just want to see every system equally loved is what I'm saying, is what I'm getting at. Sony has an amazing lineup of exclusives, and that's one thing that the Xbox has sorely been lacking this generation. So to see them come out with an E3 with, hey, guess what? You guys have been asking for exclusives for all these years. Boom, here's what we've been working on. We got this, we got that. PlayStation, same thing. I'd like to see some unannounced exclusives that we haven't seen yet. I really want to see some gameplay on Death Stranding and Last of Us 2. But Death Stranding, I mean, that's... you put your trust in Hideo Kojima because he's Hideo Kojima. But at the same time, for 2 years, we've just gotten kind of these crazy off-the-wall gameplay videos of Norman Reedus and a little random cameo from Guillermo del Toro. And it's like, man, what is this game? So I kind of want to see some detail on the story behind it and what's going on with it. For me personally, I'd really like to see a price drop on the Pro. If they announce that, and a considerable price drop, just because I love my Uncharted PS4, but I really would like to make that step to full 4K in my PlayStation world of games, because I've made the move with the X on the Xbox side of things, and I'd love to do that with the PlayStation. I got to put it out there. If they come out with some kind of announcement for a new Siphon filter, or even like a remaster or a remake of the original Siphon filter with modern day, can you guys imagine that? Like, that would be amazing. And then Nintendo, anything Zelda, I'm there.
When it comes to Siphon Filter, I've been playing it on my PSP, the original game, for a little while here and there. Yes, I'm still playing the original PSP, but looking back, that is like the first Lego game. And what I mean by that is go look at the graphics. Like the faces are just one like cylinder round circle. So a new one would be really cool. I feel like it's been a couple generations now since we've seen one, and that would be good. I will say this about Death Stranding as well. Why I really want to see some gameplay stuff. Man, I love Hideo Kojima. You guys know I'm a big Metal Gear fan, but the idea that this guy is making a game with no, oversight over him, saying, "Hey, you can't go that far. Hey, what do you do? Rein it in," kind of scares me, man. Even the gameplay trailers, you're sitting there watching this, or not gameplay, the normal trailers we got for Death Stranding. You're like, what? There's on a beach, and now I'm going in his mouth, and there's a baby. Like, what is going on here? So I'm thinking this game is going to be the most far out there game. It's going to have like 10 minutes of gameplay, and then 30 hours of cutscenes and animation. So that game's kind of got me a little worried.
I know for me, man, personally, I'm really looking forward to the game. I get it. He's a weird dude. I mean, think about like Metal Gear Solid 1. When you're fighting that, what was that, Mantis dude, you had to take your controller out of port 1 and put it in port 2. That's kind of crazy, especially for back then. But then you got other games that kind of even play with that nowadays, like Hellblade. I mean, that game was like kind of demented, but I loved it. And it honestly made me think at times that I had some mental issues.
You still might have mental issues, but yeah, I agree with you, man. Like, I'm not turning my back to it. I think it could be a lot of fun, but for me, to make that investment to say, hey, I'm gonna drop $60. Hey, I'm gonna put a game out there that I'm gonna buy and increase my backlog, because we all three suffer backlog. I gotta see something to sink my teeth in, and right now the only thing that I feel like Death Stranding has for it are the names attached to it. Norman Reedus, Hideo Kojima, however you pronounce the one dude's name that Bo you said so masterfully. Like, I think of that and I think straight to PT or Silent Hills that never was. And I don't think you guys ever got to try that, but that was really awesome. For just walking down a L-shaped hallway over and over again, it was awesome. So I'm like, all right, there's something there, but you guys got to show me what I'm doing.
And that's the scary thing when you think about it, because this is coming from a guy who created stuff such as Psycho Mantis and Vamp and all that kind of crazy but still fun stuff in the Metal Gear series. Because for those of you out there that have played the Metal Gear series, they can get pretty far out there in left field sometimes with some of the story beats and some of the characters. But it's all in fun, and it's done really well. And at the end of the day, the story always kind of circles back around to actually mean something. So, it's that's so I say you can almost say, or at least for me, I say in Hideo I trust is what we'll play a wait and see game there, I guess.
Well, let me ask you this question. Let me throw this out there. I'm going to pivot a little bit. I want to talk about a game that's been announced recently, and we know it's happening. Fallout 76. Are you guys hyped for it? What about the rumors coming out? Like, where do y'all fall on that category?
I'm going to be an odd man out here, and the reason I say that is because for those of you out there listening, I never played a Fallout game before Fallout 3. Played Fallout 3, loved it, obsessed over it, one of my favorite games ever. And then Fallout New Vegas was coming out. Got it day one, and some of you are probably going to cry heresy here in a second, but bottom line is, it stayed in the plastic. I never opened it. Not once. Popped it into my 360 disc tray. Then Fallout 4 came out. I swore, all right, I'm getting this day one. I'm going to play this one. I skipped New Vegas, but I'm playing 4. Came out the same day as Rise of the Tomb Raider. Guess what? I never played it. So I swore to these guys here, my two guys on the left and right, Mike and Ray, swore to them, all right, guys, this next Fallout that comes out, I am playing it no matter what. I skipped the last 2. So here we go. They have the tease with the please stand by card. Yes! We're getting a new Fallout announcement. And actually, to backtrack just a second, right before that, another tease with the Bethesda supposedly leaked lineup for their press conference with Fallout El Nuevo Paso or whatever it was called. Okay, cool. I'm down. Be kind of like a New Vegas in between 4 and 5 kind of deal here. Well, then we get the trailer for Fallout 76 and the clarification that it is not your standard single player, just go out here for 5,000 hours and play in the Wasteland RPG. So, the guys asked me, hey, you still going to be planning on playing this one? I got to tell you, I'm very apprehensive right now. I haven't signed off on it 100% yet, but it's more of a MMORPG, or if it's more of a, hey, this is a multiplayer-centric game with single-player aspects, I don't want that from Fallout. Now, I do know that there has been some clarification since that assumption, where it's not like that. It's more of like, hey, you can still play single-player, but it's like your friends and everybody else online are also living in the world with you. That's cool and everything, but personally, I don't know. I got to see more details on it. I got to see gameplay. I got to see definitive, concrete info on what it's going to be before I decide whether or not it's something that I'm going to go through and go ahead and purchase and play through. Because as of right now, if El Nuevo Paso or El Paso Nuevo, if that was actually going to be or is real and is your typical normal Fallout game, I'd prefer to play that than something else where other people can interact with me or be running around. I can see little ghosts or other people that are online in the same area as me running around. I'm not that kind of gamer. I prefer to be single player centric, but that's just me.
So let me ask you this, man. Your wife's a pretty big Fallout fan, right? Like, what did she think? What was her reaction when she got the big news? Because didn't she play all of them?
She did not play them. She did not come into the Fallout universe until 4. She had never played a Fallout game. I bought 4. I started out playing Rise of the Tomb Raider. So as I said, 4 was sitting there. So she had loved Elder Scrolls, Skyrim. So when I told her, she was asking about Fallout. I said, yes, made by the same people. Basically think Elder Scrolls, but set in the future after a nuclear apocalypse. She was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. I'll try it out. Well, guess what? Surprise, surprise, she absolutely fell in love with it. I think she dropped over 300 hours into the game. No exaggeration, like straight up. I think her save file says over 300 hours. All the DLC. Loved the game. Huge Fallout fan. Sent her the link the day that the trailer released for Fallout 76. She was super stoked. I get home that day from work. She wants to watch the trailer again. We bring up YouTube on the TV, and we watch it. And lo and behold, we see a trailer breakdown after we finish watching the trailer. And we're like, yeah, let's watch that. Well, it's in this trailer breakdown that we learn, because I did not know this either before this trailer breakdown, that this is not your typical Fallout game. And she looked at me, and if you could have seen the look in her eyes, think of Puss in Boots in Shrek. That's the eyes that she had. And she just looked at me and said, they just broke my heart. So to answer your question, that was her reaction to Fallout 76.
In Vault 76, our future begins.
So I feel so bad for her now, man. But I'm not too far off from her. I'm kind of the same way. I'm a huge Elder Scrolls fan. Loved all the Elder Scrolls. So when Fallout 3 came out, I was so excited. Pre-ordered the Super Deluxe Mega Edition. Got my little lunch pail. I could bring all my Sammys to work and my little tin. Got my little bobblehead from my car so he could shake his head. Yes. That ham sandwich is awesome. Yeah. Didn't like the game. Tried again with Vegas. Couldn't get into it. Finally, Fallout 4 comes out. Buy it. Hesitant to play it. Then the Xbox One X comes out and they're like, oh, HDR content, 4K. Awesome. This is my time to finally get into Fallout. And I just couldn't get into it. So regardless if Fallout 76 is online or not, really doesn't make a big difference to me. It's just sad to me. I love these games, and it's just like, why are we all going to online only? I mean, Call of Duty, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. Now, see, for me, I did play the Elder Scrolls Online game, so that might be the saving grace, because I didn't think it was bad. It just wasn't for me. I mean, it was actually pretty interesting, and it was a great concept, and I thought it was done pretty well. So hopefully that's a saving grace.
I'll be real with you guys. I'm like both. I got interested in Fallout 3, really enjoyed Fallout 3. I won't ever say I loved it, but I definitely spent the hours, enjoyed playing it. I was more, if I had to pick one, I was definitely more Elder Scrolls, which throws me off because normal games fantasy is not really my thing, right? But I have Fallout New Vegas, and I've put maybe 30 minutes on it. And if listeners know what I'm talking about, you get through the first town, you go to the next big town, you go in this hotel, and I cannot find where to go. And I've tried over the years to go next. I don't know if my game glitched or whatever. That's kind of where I sat the game. I was like, okay, so people talk how great New Vegas is. And I'm like, yeah, man, the intro was cool, but that's about as far as I got, right? So Fallout 4, I ended up picking it up day one, which is ironic because I'm not the guy that's going to buy that game, right? But I get it day one, and I think I put, man, about 15 hours into it and just was loving it. There's certain ways that you upgrade and your skills and stuff. I felt they were very restrictive. You couldn't just, like a lot of the cool stuff that they hyped about in the trailer, you couldn't just jump out and do right out the gate. And to me, that kind of was like, I kind of want to do this stuff. And then one of the cool thing about Bethesda games is exploiting glitches, and these are single player games. So if I'm exploiting a glitch, man, don't patch that out. I'm not affecting anyone, right? So I got mad about that, and I didn't play it for like 2 years. Then last October, you guys know, just on a whim, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna play a little bit, whatnot. I got sucked into the world. Like I really got into it. I got into leveling up. I'd made it far enough that all these things were opening up to me, and just I ended up going through the main story. I love the way the guilds kind of flowed into the main story, so you got to do all that. When Fallout 76 was rumored, and then or introduced, I guess you could say, I'm kind of like Aubrey was. I was like, what? Like multiplayer? And I was turned off. But then I started thinking, and I'm gonna throw this out there as a devil advocate type deal. I remember what now? What year? 12 years ago, when Oblivion came out, we were discussing it, and I remember how cool it would be if, if you could jump in my game and we could run around and do some missions together. Not like the MMORPG, but just like a drop in, drop out, co-op type thing. If I could introduce you to my game world, you come in my game world, there's my house set up or whatever. In this game, a settlement, built. Since it would be dropping, I could go into yours and see it. And I'm thinking that could be cool. Now, if it's built for single player to play, but drop in, drop out co-op, man, that could be a really cool deal. Now, if it's something like, you're doing your stuff and then anybody in the world can jump in your world, and something like Destiny, you look over the side and some dude just doing like some weird dance crap, then I'm probably going to be like, yeah, this is definitely not my style. But if there's like a cool blend towards both, where you kind of meet in the middle, where you don't have to have multiplayer, but the option's there, I think we could see some cool stuff with it, man. I really do.
So yeah, I think that would be some actually cool stuff. The drop-in, drop-out co-op, I agree with you, but that's my concern is if it is not that, and it is in fact like Destiny, where you just see random people running around doing dance moves or just other odd stuff. To me, I play video games to escape, and that just kind of detracts and pulls me out of the escapism of it, because then I'm just kind of right back with, sure, if that's fun for you, then, no judgment there. But for me, I don't want that when I'm playing a game. That's not how I enjoy my games. So, we'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll have clarification on Sunday night as far as Fallout 76, possibly Fallout El Nuevo Paso or El Paso Nuevo. Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind Remastered, potentially something that I'm really excited for. For those of you that have not heard, there's rumored to be a game called Starfield that is supposed to be essentially Elder Scrolls or Fallout, that kind of gameplay, RPG set in a science fiction, outer space kind of world, which I'm really stoked for.
Yeah, it would be awesome to have another Mass Effect,
I was going to say, there's a lot of ways my mind can go when I read about Starfield. I have that wrote down to talk about too, like, this could be awesome. First off, let me just throw this out there. Whatever Bethesda does, they have to update their engine, right? Like, Fallout 4 was cool, but you could feel like that engine has now stressed to a point. You're like, you play well, but you look like last gen, like the way the movements, animations. So I'm thinking this big, massive, like space set soap opera for Fallout and all that. That could be really cool, man. Like something new, something fresh. I think it is something fresh because really we haven't had anything since Mass Effect to really take us out there. So I'd be interested in that.
Well, no, I was just going to say, Mike, you had mentioned Mass Effect, and then Rafe, you were touching on that as well as far as comparisons. And yeah, definitely it's easy to compare or bring up Mass Effect immediately because that was the first original video game, space opera, if you will. But in my opinion, and both, yeah, the same genre RPG, but I feel that the gameplay style is completely different from one another. The exploration style, I'm just thinking of the massive open worldness feel of a Fallout or an Elder Scrolls compared to like a Mass Effect. Mass Effect is big, yes, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's really more linear than you would really think initially. But if you really look at it, big hub kind of areas that still have somewhat of a direct path. Whereas if this Starfield, hey, you hop in this ship, you go to this planet, and each planet, say, now I'm getting kind of out there, but to your point, Rafe, if they have a new engine, they can do this. Each planet is the size of, say, a continent in Elder Scrolls. I think that would be insane. Now, I would probably be insane for trying to attempt to play that game because here we are, day 2 update. We are backlogged all the time. Who am I to expect to play some 500-hour game? Either way, I think it'd be really cool.
I think it'd be cool if it kind of took the No Man's Sky approach where, maybe there's a few base levels where you're going to go to and it's going to be like part of the story, but then there's hundreds of planets you go to that are like randomly generated. Everything you do on there is completely different than what other people deal with. Like that could be cool too. And I know the last Mass Effect was supposed to be that way, but then EA being EA came in and said, nope, 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 chop that out, go this route. So I think that's an untapped market in a sense,
Well, not only that, I think that another mistake that EA and BioWare made with Mass Effect Andromeda was the fact that, yes, these big, massive areas on the planets they went to, but they went the procedurally generated route. And I personally don't think that worked positively. And it was frustrating, especially when they also tied certain quests, whether it was main or side quests, mostly side quests. But those of you out there, listeners, that you've played the game, you know what I'm talking about. If you tie a side quest to a procedurally generated world, how does that make sense? If, hey, you got to destroy 10 of these little satellites, outposts around the world, but the outposts themselves are procedurally generated. So you're literally sometimes on some of these quests just driving around in a barren desert wasteland looking for a satellite, or say you die and you reload your checkpoint and it's before you went to that satellite that you died at before you could destroy it, and you go back to that location. Well, this time, since it's a procedurally generated world, the satellite's not there anymore. So then now you're back to just driving around in circles looking for a new satellite location. So my point is, if Bethesda did do this, please do not go the procedurally generated route. Create the world. Have it built around something. Don't just have it procedurally generated. I know it's easier on the hardware. It makes less for them to have to specifically sit there and detail every tree and lake and rock. But at the same time, it makes for a better gaming experience. And at the end of the day, isn't that what the purpose is, right? As a game developer, you want to give a great experience to the gamer. And I feel like that's what they, hopefully will shoot for with Starfield.
We dream of exploring the unknown, discovering what lies beyond.
The entire initiative is at risk. None of the Golden Worlds panned out.
I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put the blame on me.
Now you are a part of the first wave of arcs arriving in Andromeda, our new home for humanity.
Now, my next question is to you guys, what do you guys expect to see? So, Mike, what do you expect to see? We know what you want to see, but what do you think, okay, this is, I want to see this, but I bet you this is what I'm expecting. So, go.
So, man, to answer that question, like you said, what I expect to see, like what am I going to guarantee is going to be at E3? The Last of Us. I think we all agree The Last of Us 2, Uncharted is going to be there. I think from Microsoft, you're going to see a Gears, a Forza, a Halo. Even though we probably got a lot of franchise fatigue there. On the Nintendo side, I mean, we're going to probably see Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, Mario Cooks Eggs. So on the Microsoft side, more going forward, I do think we're going to see some Xbox exclusive titles, and I think that they're going to have to capitalize on that this year.
But honestly, man, and this is going to probably shock you guys a little bit, I honestly think that this is the year that we see Xbox VR. Whether it's something Microsoft creates exclusively for the console, or Microsoft with their previous good working relationship with Oculus, I really see you maybe even a partnership with Oculus Rift. Hey guys, you already have this great VR machine, you have all these great games, now you got 10 more millions of users to sell your product to. So I really think that this is the year that we see Xbox VR. I mean, we've already seen the Kinect, and they're trying to do that augmented reality type of thing.
So you don't think that, real quick, the VR ship has kind of sailed and we've moved on from that as far as in the gaming community, as far as console is concerned?
I would have liked to say yes, but I really don't, man. And the reason I say that is because...
So you don't think it's too little too late on Microsoft's part? Now, I'm just being a devil's advocate here, but you don't think it's too little too late on their part to come out 2 years after PlayStation VR? And when's the last time you really heard anybody talk about in the media about VR for gaming? Or when's the last time you know of a VR-specific release on PlayStation?
Well, I guess to answer several of those questions, number one, I do still actually see people talking about VR, and I even know here locally there's VR shops popping up all over the place. And when you go in there, they do have Oculus Rift, they do have PS4 set up, and they got these different VRs. And I actually, I would say probably once, every 2 or 3 months, I do go to the PS VR store, and there's always new games on there. So I don't think it's a dead format. I do think it is kind of like 3D and 4K is, where it's not really everybody's doing it, but I do think that there is enough people, and the PSVR did sell well enough that I think it is an option. Now, I will say this, I'm not 100% sold on that it's going to be something Microsoft is going to make. But, in my opinion, as far as the too little too late, if they team with Oculus Rift, somebody who pretty much created the VR world that we live in now, somebody who has perfected it, if you will, because the PSVR is kind of, to be blunt about it, is kind of a poor man's VR machine compared to what is going on in the PC world. So now you have this Xbox One X, this powerhouse machine, this machine that is rivaling, higher end PCs, and Oculus Rift perfected VR, and they have a good relationship with Microsoft. And if they just sort of bring them in and say, hey, have at it, man, come over to the Xbox, make all the money you want selling your machines, why not? And I think that would fix the too little too late as far as Sony and Microsoft goes.
So do you think that people would be receptive or disappointed if, say, at Microsoft's press conference this weekend, they, out of, say, an hour and a half that the press conference lasts, say a third of that, half an hour, they spend on debuting this new partnership with Oculus Rift and demoing the Oculus Rift functionality, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that the gaming public would be okay with that? Or do you think they would rip them apart by like, come on, guys, you tried and failed with the Kinect. VR is not really where it's at, right? Like, you need exclusive games. You need a reason for people to buy your console that are games. Sony's proven, Switch is proven. You need games. So again, playing devil's advocate, not necessarily voicing my opinion here, just trying to spark some good conversation. What do you think?
Yeah, as I say, I'll jump in with this one here. I'm kind of two ways on this. One, I definitely see if they dedicate a lot of time, gonna have people go, okay, dude, show us the games, what's going on. I can see that but I'll also throw this out there. Like Mike said, the PSVR for VR actually does better than I think a lot of people realize. The key thing that's going to be is developers jumping on, like Resident Evil in VR. Like, that was a pretty big success. Like, I want to say the stats came out and most people jumped on that. So I'd be very, very curious how that works. Like if more games jumped, I know Skyrim did it, and I heard some iffy stuff about it. But I think the idea that if people would jump out there, or developers really backed it up, and more games came out with it, people would do it. Right now, it's kind of like those hit or miss games you can play, or if developers said, you know what, we're making this game, but we're also going to make it VR ready right out the gate, man, I think you see VR, people would have a reason to invest in the VR, but right now it's a $300-$400 side toy, and we learn with Kinect that's cool out the gate, and then if developers are not supporting it, that technology goes nowhere. That's my thoughts on it.
What I was going to say, my thoughts on it is, if Microsoft did do that, I do think that there would be a huge backlash because right now, for whatever reason, Microsoft is painted as the villain, and every move that they make is, hey, it's not about, you got to be focused on the games. You got to be focused on the games. You got to be focused on the games. You got to be like Nintendo. They're focused on the games. Yeah, that's cool. Nintendo's focused on, PS3 and Xbox 360 ports. That's awesome. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Nintendo fan. And then you got on the other side, hey, Sony's got, they're all about the games. They're all about the games. Okay, but we just discussed that they released the VR machine. So why is it all right that they release it and we're not? So if Microsoft did do this, they got to do it kind of like they did backwards compatibility. These are all the awesome games we're releasing. And by the way, this October, Oculus Rift is compatible. Boom, that's it. Just say it. Don't dedicate time to it. Just say it's happening. And then let people at the E3.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then let the people at the E3 see it, play with it, talk about it, interview those people. But if Microsoft themselves makes it a big deal, then no, it's not going to happen.
So just yes or no, basic. Mike, do you want to see some kind of announcement about VR on Xbox at E3?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I would love Xbox VR. I'm just that type of guy. I'm a tech guy. When the Kinect came out, I had to have it. When Guitar Hero, Rock Band, the keyboards came out, 4K, Xbox One X, all that stuff, I had to have it. I would love for it, man. I'd be all about it.
All right, Rafe, I know you don't have an Xbox, but had you purchased an Xbox VR, yes or no?
I'll be real. I'm gonna say yes. Because I think it's good for the industry to grow a little bit. And I still think VR is one of those things where if the developers get behind it, some cool stuff could happen. So I'm going to say yeah for now.
To be honest, for me, I'm going to be the odd man out and say no. And that's on me. And I said yes or no, so I'm going to stick with no. All right. So
and I do want to say this, though, also. I mean, there's three of us here, right? And all three of us have a PS4. How many, Bo, do you own a VR for PS4?
No, never interested.
Rafe?
Yeah, same way, not interested.
And it's the same here. I also don't own one, so I mean, I think that's fair to state. I've played on the PS4 VR, and I think it's awesome. But I have yet to, make that $300 investment.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the Kinect was cool to play with, like, in the stores. And then me and my wife went out and bought the Xbox at work, because I had, like, the original version. We go out, we buy a new Xbox, we bring it home. I think we both played Dance Dance Revolution like once or twice, or Just Dance something. And then it became a way to watch Netflix and just kind of, play next or whatever you did with the first generation Kinect. Like, we didn't do it that much. And that's how I've seen VR. But I'll go back to Resident Evil. As soon as it was announced on Resident Evil, I was like, oh, that would be pretty dope. That would be legit. So if more developers said, hey, right out the gate, play our game in VR, I would be very interested in seeing that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, even something like God of War, that would have been really cool to play in VR. I mean, totally different. Again, I don't know how third person works in that style, but just the idea that developers are supporting it, I'd be super, super more interested in it. But right now, it just seems like hit or miss games are on there, and then the VR games, which outside of Batman, none of them have actually interest me at all.
I can tell you, as someone who's not interested in the VR, I also am very interested in a lot of the games that I've seen for PlayStation VR. I wouldn't have minded playing Resident Evil 7 in VR. That would have been awesome. You're right. And there's a couple of games that I had seen that they were all, ironically enough, horror themed. So there was one about an asylum, and you're breaking out of the asylum or whatever, and that seemed cool. But my thing is I'm like you, Rafe. I kind of go back to the Kinect. And on the 360, hey, man, day one, Kinect, boom, I'm here. I'm all for it. And the thing is, they never seemed to 100%, in my opinion, really nailed down how to play a traditional game using the Kinect. I played through, and now some of you listeners may laugh at this, but you got to remember, if you do remember, Kinect had very few traditionally played games that were Kinect utilized, or utilized the Kinect. One of the games that stands out to me is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Now, that one, you could play through the entire game via controller or using the Kinect. And it was kind of cool because as you're going through, obviously you're Harry Potter, you're a wizard, you got your wand, and so you're moving your hand around to do in different shapes to do different spells and stuff. So I played through that whole game, a traditional game via Kinect. It was okay. Rise of Nightmares. Don't know if you guys remember that game, but that was a Kinect-only game. First person, you could only play it via Kinect. A lot of fun, but at the same time, the mechanics, they were just kind of rough, and you had to stand up the whole time. You had to use, So my point is, with PlayStation VR, it looks like you have to have the Move wands. I don't know if that's for every game, to be honest, but if that's something like I just want to play a game. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to sit there and suit up, so to speak, with a VR headset and 2 wands and making sure that my calibration is right and doing this and that. I just want to sit down and relax and play a game. That's my 2 cents, my opinion, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. And if you a traditional gaming experience, until they really nail that, I don't know if I'm going to be sold on any of that.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm just so lazy with the idea of putting a helmet on to play VR and then having to turn my head left and right. I'd rather just use my finger on a toggle stick left and right. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how lazy I am. So, yeah, VR is probably not going to work for me.
Sure.
Just requires
So the way VR works is basically you have a display and you have sound, and it needs to react to your movement of your head. So you need a tracking system for that to happen. So what we have for our tracking system is gyros and accelerometers in the unit, but also a camera watching these LEDs that are on the front and on the back.
Expectations for E3. We got Mike's expectations. Rafe, what are your expectations? What do you expect to see at E3?
I mean, obviously Sony came out and said, "Hey, here's our main focus on 4 games." I expect The Last of Us 2 to probably get a release window, and I expect it to show some gameplay stuff. I expect, if you go back a couple of years ago when Uncharted 4 really debuted, not the initial teaser trailer, but the one where they showed the level where you're driving the Jeep and all that stuff's going on, I expect something to that level from Naughty Dog for The Last of Us 2, which, by the way, if I'm looking at a game coming out in the next several years, The Last of Us 2 got to be my number 1. And there's a lot of big games coming out, right? So I'm very hyped to see something. I do think we'll see something with Death Stranding, not just gameplay, or not just video. We'll actually see some gameplay, hear some details about it. Like, Sony's not going to have these 4 games as their main focus and not show us something new, something big about these games. But the biggest thing I'm going to throw out there, and this might come back to bite me in the face here, I would be very surprised if we did not hear something about a new Splinter Cell game. We've had hints. Ubisoft has dropped stuff. We've had Ghost Recon had Sam Fisher come in there. And you had like a mission or whatever. And I think just the hype about it, the way they've been building it, Ubisoft would be a fool not to have a Splinter Cell game come out. I think it's there. I think they brought Michael Ironside back for that Ghost Recon. I can't see them going to that much effort not to have Splinter Cell. The gaming community at this point is all coming around to say, you know what I'd like to see? A new Splinter Cell. So I definitely think we will see that. Other than that, man, I think those are pretty much in line with what everybody else has said.
So my expectations, I can guarantee you Xbox is going to show off a new Forza, because every E3, whether it's Forza Motorsport or Forza Horizon, there's always a new one. And this year I expect to see Forza Horizon 4 debuted and announced, because last year was Motorsport. So I definitely know they're going to show Forza Horizon 4. ID at Xbox always has some kind of montage, so I'm sure that we'll see a montage of all the ID at Xbox games that they're coming out with. Along with Forza, they always debut some kind of newly released or upcoming car, so we'll see some kind of new car released. I guarantee you we'll probably see, I'd be extremely surprised if we didn't see anything on Crackdown 3 at Microsoft's press conference, because, I mean, that game has been kind of marinating and being redone and re-evaluated for years now, so I think that we will probably see something more definitive on it if things are moving along on it. I do feel like we're going to see some kind of tease on Gears for Gears 5. Now, I say Gears and not Halo, and I could be wrong in this, and maybe it was misinformation to detract people away from, being expectant of it. But I don't see a Halo 6 announcement. Maybe a tease, but bottom line is the guy at 343 have already come out and said there will be nothing new for Halo at E3. So whether or not that's accurate, we'll see. But just based off of that, I'm going to say we probably won't see anything on Halo, but I do see some kind of Gears 5 announcement or tease. So as far as PlayStation, to your point, Rafe, I agree. I think that we'll definitely see some Last of Us 2 gameplay. I expect to see Death Stranding gameplay. And, the big four that they've already said they're going to focus on. So obviously they'll focus on those 4 core games. Nintendo, they'll probably, I feel like there was some kind of rumors going on leading up to this, that they were working on a new Metroid game. So they'll probably have some kind of tease on that. We'll probably see some Super Smash Brothers information, because they've been teasing that with images online in the last couple of months. They always usually have something Zelda related, even if it's not the next main entry in the franchise, like the per se the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Even if it's something along the lines of like Hyrule Warriors or something like, I'm sure there'll be I expect to see some kind of Zelda related announcement from Nintendo. And just in general, I do not just want, but I also expect to see a pro price drop, maybe even a slim price drop on the PS4 front. And I do agree with you. I expect to see something on Splinter Cell. Ubisoft has put too much into putting Splinter Cell back in the minds of people. I expect to see something on Splinter Cell. They'll probably have something on Beyond Good and Evil 2. We'll probably see something new on Anthem at EA's press conference. I got to add this into what I'm wanting to see too. Dragon Age. I want to see something on Dragon Age at EA, their press conference, because we haven't seen that series in a long time. And so hopefully they have something on that.
Just for readers, if you haven't heard, Sony's said that, hey, this year at our conference, we're focusing on 4 games. And to spell that out, it's The Last of Us 2, Death Stranding, Days Gone, which is the awesome open world zombie game, and Spider-Man, the PS4 exclusive. Just wanted to put that out there so listeners who might not know understand what we're saying when we say Sony's Big 4.
So speaking of Big 4, the big number 4 question. Well, you said something about you want Dragon Age. I mean, what other games are there? Like for me, when they said Shenmue last year, I was like, what? So what is that? What game for you this year? What do you just have to see? You need.
Earlier about exclusives unannounced for Microsoft. This is a shot in the dark here, but I can only imagine if with current hardware they announced and came out with Alan Wake 2.
Oh, wow.
Revamped gameplay, an updated gameplay, system, control system, the lighting system, that you had to use that was crucial in that game with the flashlight and the light and dark. And I'm not talking about a la American Nightmare, a little side story and just kind of more of an arcade type feel to it. I'm talking about a full-fledged sequel to that game. And I think that would be amazing. I was really sitting here the last couple of days trying to think of, man, what Microsoft exclusives were just really, really hot back in the day that I loved that I haven't seen and that they've gone dormant. And Alan Wake jumped out at me. I said, wow, that was actually a Xbox exclusive back in the day. And if they came out with Alan Wake 2, I think that would be awesome. I'd be real excited for that. So I really want to see Alan Wake 2. I really want to see, in addition to that, Fable 4. Not Fable Legends, not Fable Heroes. I'm talking about Fable 4. And I know that's something different than Alan Wake 2, where they haven't really teased or talked about potential of that being announced. But whereas Fable 4, they have somewhat. But Fable 4, if it's a full-fledged action RPG sequel to 3, set in the world of Albion, same kind of gameplay and fun that the Fable series, the core 3 titles are known for, hey man, I will be all over that. And Fable 4 and Alan Wake 2, and then if they do Gears 5, woo, I'm getting excited, man. I'm getting excited. That green blood in me is starting to warm up a little bit. But I mean, yeah, I'd really like to see that, or those games. The other big one for me, the Elder Scrolls Morrowind remaster, that I feel like that would be a second chance to go back and really experience that game, and maybe not just to experience it in general, but to experience it the way it was intended is what I would feel like, because you got to think, system constraints back then, that game released 16 years ago, something like that. And, even on a high-end PC back then, nowhere near what you can do now. So I think it would be awesome, especially if you look at what they've done with Elder Scrolls Online, and they released the Morrowind expansion, and you can see the world of Morrowind in HD and in current-gen graphic. I mean, if they just went full-on with it and did just this amazing remaster, I think that would be really cool. But I got to say, man, my top 2, Fable 4 and Alan Wake 2. And if those guys who leaked, quote-unquote, that press conference for Sony, if that was all a farce, I'll be a little upset, because I got to admit, For those of you that haven't seen that, from our listeners, if you haven't seen that leak, it mentioned on there Final Fantasy VIII remake announcement. So that is also one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. And I got to be honest with you, a part of me and a lot of you out there might, come at me with pitchforks and torches, but that in a lot of ways, I'm more excited for than Final Fantasy VII remake. So just putting that out there. That's what I'm really most looking forward to.
Man, I'm going to be honest. I think we've covered a lot of the ones I'd be excited to see. And like Bo said, these were Skate 4 to be a shot in the dark just because one semi-clear version of a screenshot doesn't mean anything to me, because I feel like nowadays you can't show a room of people, hey, this is what we're working on, and it not get some kind of hype, right? And that screenshot really just kind of floated around. Nobody really built on it. So I'm going to say shot in the dark, Skate 4. I think the audience is there, and that's got to be the number one. Hey, we haven't said anything about it, but this is coming. Other than that, the hopes to see, again, I'll say Splinter Cell. I totally missed the last one, so I'd love to see a new one of those. I was really going to go shot in the dark. During the Spider-Man conference, I would absolutely love if Sony was like, but guess what, guys? We don't just have Spider-Man coming. Here's some more superhero-themed stuff. You guys know me. I'm a huge Wolverine fan. Got the tattoo. I would love to see like a Wolverine or an X-Men themed game or something, and that's just dream sheet, dream wish, just kind of wanting to see where this Sony and Marvel thing is going. That's another game to throw out there. The Avengers games that's supposed to be coming out sometime next year by Crystal Dynamics. I'd be very interested. I'd like to see something about it. What's the gameplay like? What's going to happen?
All right. Well, I know for me, man, everybody's talking about, Xbox needs the games, Xbox needs the game. So I'm all about making Xbox great again. And what initially made the Xbox great was Splinter Cell, man. So I would absolutely love to see a Splinter Cell come back. A new Elder Scrolls would be awesome. Since I'm just knocking off things off of my wish list, I would love to see a new Grand Theft Auto, Fight Night, Skate, Unravel, Titanfall. Dude, what if we got a new Prince of Persia? Like, how crazy would you go for that? I would be beside myself, right? I'd be like,
I'd love it.
I would be like a fainting goat. I'd just like pass out and just knock over on the floor.
Ooh, Prince of Persia,
right?
Man, that hit some chords right there. I got my tingles going.
If we're gonna do a wish list, we might as well do it right, But I mean, things like a new Fable would be awesome. For me, everybody's talking about exclusives. I don't really care about exclusives. I know I just mentioned a laundry list of games that I used to love playing, but I would love to see some new stuff, man.
I'd love to see Microsoft really hammer it home with some, I'll say exclusives. I know you say you don't care about them, but some exclusive games that are brand new, fresh, that make me go, you know what? I need to go get an Xbox. Like, I'd love to see the thing. When I came into this generation, I was like, all right, I'm a Sony guy. I'm only going to worry about PS4. There's just no point for me to have both systems. As I noticed the last generation, I kind of pretty much swayed one system or the other. But I'd love for them to really push some stuff out to make me go, okay, I'm going to need to play those games, so I'm going to pony up. Not and to be clear, not when they like, hey, we know this game's been multi-platinum before, but now it's going to be exclusive to this game. Or, hey, we got this game out, and then they're very vague about a time release. So, as a Sony guy, I'm like, all right, I know I'm going to get it in about a year, like Tomb Raider or Dead Rising. But, I really want to see Microsoft do something in-house to really kick scales. I mean, yeah, Alan Wake would be great. I'd like to see Microsoft really say, you know what, guys, we need to build us up. What you got? That's what kind of crushed me. Scalebound was canceled because that game was looking really good, and I was like, you know what, that's something for my Xbox buddies to really not necessarily have over us PS4 guys, but a reason to say this is why I own an Xbox right here.
That crushed my soul, man.
Yeah,
when they announced
remember
that
you were in
was
like
canceled.
mourning for 3 days.
I was, man. I got that because to your point, to all of our points, that's what we're talking about is new, fresh ideas and new IP, and the fact that it was an exclusive. And again, I'm kind of like Mike. Like the exclusives aren't that big of a deal to me because I have both an Xbox and a PlayStation, so I can pick and choose. I'll just buy them whenever it's not a big deal to me. But I know that not every listener, not everybody is able to financially do that, and I understand that. So you have to pick and choose. Hey, I'm going with this one solid console. What's going to make me go with that? But Scalebound specifically, yeah, it sounded so good and it looked so different and fresh and what they were going to do with it. And it looked like it was so far along. And then just to have it just kind of, I felt like the rug was ripped out from underneath me. And I said, man, what happened, man?
I mean, I don't know. I don't really know because Microsoft still retained the rights to the IP and the name Scalebound. So I don't know if that means that they plan on using it at some other time in the future, or the original development team was working on and decided to kind of redo the game as something else.
Yeah, man, what's up with Xbox One and these new fresh IPs saying, hey, we had to just scrap it and completely redo it? Didn't they do that with Quantum Break?
They did that with Quantum Break. They did that with possibly Sea of Thieves, but I also know for a fact they did it with Crackdown. Remember Crackdown? They had this, oh, it's going to be amazing, and millions of people at the same time can access, and then boom, oh, we had to go back to the drawing board and reevaluate. Our imagination was bigger than what the capabilities of the hardware.
It looked like it could be really cool, but I think Crackdown 3 was a lesson to all developers and studios of, hey guys, don't show something that soon before you can deliver on those promises, right? Like we've all heard like Fable, and oh, this is what it's gonna have, and it doesn't quite live up to that. There's a big difference when your entire game and you're showing these teasers that the game's not gonna be ready for a couple years, and you're going, yeah, I think we'll be able to do that, and then as you get farther along, you're like, yeah, we can't do that. And I think that's kind of with Crackdown, like it was an industry-wide lesson. So I'm hoping Crackdown 3 still comes out. I know it's being worked on. I hope it comes out. I hope it's big. But I think that might be a reason why we've heard less about it, is it's not going to be anywhere near the initial reports for it.
So let me ask you this, guys. Going into E3, what is that one company, like, you had to put your gaming life on the line. Who do you think right now is going to walk away from E3 as the winner? Is it Microsoft? Is it Sony? Is it Nintendo? Or is it even somebody that like a publisher or developer, EA, Activision? Maybe if it's even Ubisoft. I know how much we've talked about Ubisoft today.
So for me, as far as my opinion, there are a few factors that would play into that. I think that, it could go to anybody at this point because, I mean, really it's all just, everything we've just talked about is about 99% speculation and rumor as far as what's actually going to be at these press conferences and everything and at this event. I would say that if Microsoft had a lot of the announcements that I was talking about and some of the exclusives and another big thing that I think that they're going to hopefully announce is the new information on how they're changing up gamer score and achievements. They've been teasing for a while now that they're going to do something different with that and make it mean something more than just a point system. So, if they have some really cool announcement about that, they always every year seem to have some kind of service announcement, whether it's a new service like Xbox Game Pass or backwards compatibility or improvements to Xbox Live, or this year if they do the gamer score and achievement system upgrade. But if they have some really cool stuff like that, Xbox Live Design Lab, design your own controller. But so bottom line is, if they have the game and if they stay focused on that, and if they have a good solid lineup of games from the group that I had mentioned, I think that they could pull that out. Because to be honest, I mean, I think PlayStation has a great lineup, and if they stick to that 4, it's commendable. And don't get me wrong, they're all 4 games that I am very interested in and look forward to, but they're also all 4 games that have already been previously announced a while ago and have been out there in the world. So when you're talking about the excitement of E3, and the excitement of, where does that excitement come from? It comes from the expectation and the yearning and the anticipation of seeing something new, something what's going to be new, what don't I know about yet. And for right now, I think if when he sticks with those 4 games, unless those 4 games have just amazing gameplay shown on stage, because we've already seen gameplay of Days Gone, we've already seen a lot of gameplay on Spider-Man. And Death Stranding and Last of Us 2, they are the only 2 of those 4 that we haven't seen gameplay yet. So as amazing as those gameplay videos probably will be, if it's just that, I don't know, man. I mean, if they have a couple of announcements thrown in there, maybe, but I don't know. Sony right now is kind of hard for me to jump in on them. And Nintendo, I don't really know with Nintendo. So right now, based on what I know and what I'm speculating, just on my pure speculation, I'm going to say Xbox wins this year.
Rafe, you gonna counter that? Agree with that? What you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bo's kind of got it nailed on the head. My view of it is this is Microsoft's E3 to lose, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is when Sony says, hey, we're going to stick to these big 4 games, The Last of Us and Death Stranding, Days Gone, Spider-Man. Okay, well, here's the deal. Days Gone and Spider-Man just had pretty big cover stories for Game Informer, right? Not only that, but like Bo said, like every year for E3 for the last year or two, we've seen gameplay. Like we've seen these videos trickle out there. So, I mean, Spider-Man more specifically, they almost run the risk of showing too much to where people are like, cool, I've seen the game, I don't need to play now, right? I mean, we've just seen so much. Days Gone, yeah, they could probably show us more about the systems, what they do, how they handle it. So those two, yeah, no, there's a lot of hype to get to build up. I know I'm excited for them, but again, beating a dead bush there. The excitement's already there. The Last of Us, Death Stranding, between the story and then some real solid gameplay. Again, if they did something to the effect of Uncharted 4's Jeep scene, that would be big because most people walked away from that E3 and that was one of their biggest reveals was that happened. So I think Sony focusing in on those, it's a kind of a gamble. If they, unveil those, or not really unveil them, but really focus on those in a big way and have exciting stuff, not just, well, this is what we can do with this graphics and this is this system, but really show the stuff, the hype can be there because that's what people walk away from is what they've seen, experienced, and that's what they take from, right? So if they hit those, we could have, it could win. And then like Bo said, if they actually do what Bo said Microsoft should do and hit some of the systems, hey, you want to change your gamer tag? It's going to be there. The long rumor that's kind of hitting every E3 is Sony's going to say, you know what, the PlayStation now is not as big as we want. We'll give fans the backwards compatibility. Whether or not fans ever use it, but just the idea that it's there, I think that would go a long way to give that favorable goodwill from fans. Because just look, I mean, 360 or Xbox One did it, 3 years ago now? And that was what people talked about at the end of it, backwards compatibility. Oh my goodness, like everybody loved it. Whether it gets used or not, it's just the idea knowing you can do it. But for Microsoft to win, it's like both. They have to have some solid first-party lineup games, right, to wow people. They have to reach out to, Ubisoft and all these developers and say, hey, I know you want to show these games off during your conferences, but at least debut them with us. Because at the end of the day, yeah, people are going to sit there and they'll say, okay, cool, Splinter Cell debuted at Xbox conference. It's on all platforms, but I connect Splinter Cell debuting with Xbox. I connect the next, Assassin's Creed Odyssey with the Xbox conference. And that's what people are going to remember. Sure, those games are multi-platinum, but Microsoft was smart. They debuted them there. Their conference was just better. It was more exciting. That's what people are going to walk away from. Yeah, Last of Us and Death Stranding, like those games might blow people away as well. But if, Microsoft comes out and just like full guns blaming, here's a big game, boom, here's a big game, boom, and people are just down for it, that's what people are going to remember. Nintendo, man, they've got such a small presence there lately. I don't necessarily know they're going to do a whole bunch of stuff unless Reggie comes out and, does the whole my body is ready again thing. I don't see them really walking away for too much, you know what I'm saying? And then the conferences, man, like for the individual developers, I think ultimately if you look at it, I mean, it's going to be Bethesda or Ubisoft on who's got the best games out there, and a lot of that kind of falls into what Fallout looks like, what other stuff is out there. Because here's the problem with rumor and hype. If there's not a new, Morrowind game or remaster coming out, if there's Fallout 76 is it. That's it. That's what they push. That's what they show. People are going to be kind of excited about it, but it's going to kill it just because they went in expecting something that Bethesda wasn't going to give them. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but, that's the problem with the developer conferences. So I think, going back to your original point, it is Microsoft's E3 to lose.
Body check on somebody. So today, I think we'll do it with Reggie. Hi.
My body is ready.
Nostalgia plays very big with gamers, and thinking about what you had said, Rafe, about Splinter Cell and debuting at the Xbox press conference, I can totally see them, and I call it now. I could totally see Phil Spencer getting up there and saying, "So this next franchise, it started with Xbox and helped us, spearhead the original Xbox in the beginning. It showcased the capabilities of the hardware, and here to do it again, 15 years later, here it is, Splinter Cell Apocalypse." Woo!
And it's
you know what I'm
tattooed
saying?
on
Like,
his stomach.
I could see. Oh yeah, well, Phil Spencer. Yeah, you pull up the shirt. Here it is, Splinter Cell Apocalypse.
No, here,
but no.
here it is, man. I'm gonna paint the picture for you. He's gonna be talking about what's coming new for Xbox, and all of a sudden, all the power's gonna go out, the lights are out, and then all of a sudden, you just see a green light come on, and then another green light. And another
Thank you
green
very
light.
much.
Welcome to the studio. We're so thrilled to have you here at Inside Xbox.
Good to be here.
So how was it stepping back into Sam Fisher's shoes?
I never left. I am Sam Fisher.
Can you guys imagine if it is what you just the picture you just painted, Rafe, where we get to E3, it's only Fallout 76, no El Nuevo Paso or whatever. There's no Morrowind remaster. The game Starfield doesn't even exist, and there's no new announcement on Elder Scrolls 6. Can you imagine if it was just kind of centered around Fallout 76?
That better be good.
And maybe some Elder Scrolls Online stuff. Like, oh man.
Yeah, it better be good. It better be real good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't expect that, but I'm just saying, to your point, that's what really sucks about these leaks and these press conferences and the hype building up around them and leading up to them is like, especially when you have those leaks, because now I'm never going to be able to pull it out of my mind that, all right, it's got to have some validity to it. There's got to be something about Starfield, and I'm still hoping that El Paso Nuevo is actually real, and the Morrowind, So, and I just want to put it out there. I think we forget about them a lot, but Square Enix is a press conference that nobody mentioned. I think that that's going to be a solid press conference. Because think about it, if they have Kingdom Hearts 3 and finally release or announce a release date for it, that's going to be huge. And then you have, if there is a Final Fantasy VIII remake, maybe hopefully some updated stuff on Final Fantasy VII remake. I'm sure they'll show some stuff off on Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And unfortunately, I would have said in the past something new on Hitman, but since they have since separated from IO Interactive, unfortunately we won't see that. But Just Cause 4 was also another tease in that one leak. So they could come out with some really cool stuff too. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, man. I don't disagree with you guys. I do think it is Microsoft's E3 to lose. They have to come out strong with the games. Games. Everybody keeps talking about they need exclusive games. They need more games from Microsoft. This is the year. You got to come out wowing with the games. Anything extra that you want to do, awesome. Just let the games speak for themselves. Nintendo, I would really like to see something on their new online service. I know it's supposed to come out this September. I'm really excited for it, but I may be the only one. Now, I think from Sony's standpoint, we know they're going to have the big four. That's fine. That's great. I just don't know that Sony really has anything to lose or gain from this E3, so I think they're going to play a little safer, a little close to their chest. Now, it would be really crazy if they actually teamed up with EA and did some sort of exclusive, or, hey, we're going to give you these games, I know they've done it in the past with, like, Titanfall, EA Access. Didn't they even, switch CEOs at one point?
Yeah, Peter Moore, you're probably thinking about that, because Peter Moore used to be the head of Xbox, and then he switched over to EA, and he was the head of EA Sports for a while.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, maybe they think they come out with some exclusive or some time exclusive. They even had the Titanfall at one time. Maybe do a Titanfall 3 or...
No, I was just going to say, to add to your point, Dragon Age Origins, exclusive to Xbox 360. Mass Effect 1, exclusive to Xbox 360. So EA, BioWare, Microsoft, great, to your point, great relationship.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, with EA Access and the Titanfall, I mean, it'd be cool to maybe if they had some exclusives or some timed exclusives. Personally, what I would love to see from EA and Microsoft as far as a exclusive goes, this might blow some people's minds, but I would love to see a triple play or MVP baseball because, right? Because I mean, I love baseball games and I used to love playing triple play. And then here's Sony with this amazing baseball game year in and year out, and we get Super Mega Baseball 42
RBI baseball.
Yeah, I mean it's just really
Yeah, how does that work?
What's that?
How does Microsoft not care enough to have a baseball game? Especially in America.
They tried,
man. Who does MLB The Show? Is that EA?
That's Sony, no.
It's Sony.
989
that's Sony itself.
What ended up happening, I don't know if you know this, Rafe, but years ago, ESPN and Sega were killing football games, right? They were amazing. Mm-hmm. So Madden went out and got the license to the NFL. And so
I remember that.
They were the only ones who could make an NFL football game. And so I guess in response, 2K went out and got the MLB license. But the caveat to their license is 2K can make a baseball game.
or the first-party companies can make a baseball game. So you can have 2K can make a baseball game, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. There's only people who can make an MLB licensed game. So EA was pretty much out the picture. So they had that 2K baseball game for the longest time, and it just started sucking, so they quit doing it. And it pretty much just left Sony in the market. And Microsoft at the time pretty much quit making games. Am I right, Bo? I mean, they didn't really have a studio anymore. Yeah, I know they used to have like Inside Drive,
right.
and
I was about to say, yeah, man, the original days of the original Xbox, what you just said, NBA Inside Drive, NFL Fever.
That's it.
So yeah, I mean they tried, man. I mean they put an effort out there, and to be honest with you, I think you'd agree with me, Mike. Those weren't bad games. They were actually pretty decent.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think some of the things that we enjoy now in our sports games started there because, for instance, me with NBA, my favorite thing about NBA is the My Career mode. You start this guy who's nothing, and the better you play, the more points you get, which with the more points you get, you can upgrade your guy to be better. And honestly, NBA Inside Drive started that. I don't know if you remember that, Bo, but I mean, you would have this crappy guy, and you would come off the bench for like 3 minutes, you score 2 points, and you're like freaking out, like, yes, I can finally, upgrade my 3-point shooting ability.
Yeah, I remember that. I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Watch Dogs 3.
See, he laughs, man, because
I don't know, man.
I loved Watch Dogs 1. Now, I never gave Part 2 a fair chance, but I mean, that would be interesting. I wouldn't be upset with it. I wouldn't be like, fainting goat on you guys, but I would be excited about it.
I only laugh because I feel like, all right, so I think I touched Watch Dogs 1 for like an hour or two, and I didn't hate it. Really didn't form an opinion. Watch Dogs 2, I had like the time demo, so I don't remember how many hours I got, but I remember thinking, hey, this is a pretty solid game. Nothing to write home about, but solid. Again, not hating it, but the idea that like Ubisoft is like, all right, guys, we have one more game to present. And they do just like you said, Mike, the lights go out. And then 3 green lights pop up. And then it's like, boom, the dots connect to make a 3, and then Watch Dogs is right there. This fall, Watch Dogs 3, be there. And just, I mean, dude, it would go over like a fart in a church. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think in the right time and place, but I don't feel like that franchise has gained enough goodwill that unless they're just blowing everybody's socks off with it, I just don't see that like as being a major E3 reveal, man. All right, guys, so we've talked about E3. We've done that. What are you guys' favorite memories of E3? Like from the past, what's the 2 or 3 memories or one that just pops in your mind like, oh, yeah, that's E3 for me? What do you got, Mike?
Man, what a loaded question. I feel like with social media nowadays, everything's kind of ruined before you even get to E3. But honestly, I mean, my first memory of E3 is back as a teenager with dial-up internet. Log in online to IGN, and they get this 6-minute video. I have to go load it up, go watch TV for 45 minutes, and come back, and only 3.5 minutes of it have buffered. So I'm watching it there. But I guess my favorite memory, or the one that I go to the most, is back in around the Xbox 360 era. Me going over to Bo's house with like a friend or two. We're sitting there watching it. E3 live on G4 TV, and then Microsoft's coming out and say all these games, all these demos that everybody's playing here, you can go download and play on your Xbox 360 right now. It's like, what? So it was like you were there at E3. You're watching it live, and then you turn around and playing the games. Why we ever got away from that, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't really miss G4, but the fact that we can't play these demos on our Xboxes and PS4s and stuff, I don't know why we got away from that though.
You kind of stole my thunder there, Mike. But I agree with you, man. As far as when you and Matt, came over to my house, and my mom would make like snacks and stuff, and have like a little party made out of it to watch E3 there on G4, and to just kind of experience those announcements live with my friends. I mean, that was awesome. We'd take breaks at commercial breaks, walk outside, just kind of get fresh air, talk about everything that we just witnessed, and oh man, I can't Halo 3, because that was at the time one of the bigger announcements was when everybody knew it was coming, but when that trailer first came up and you saw Master Chief walking in the desert, man, and the graphics that everybody was freaking out over at the time, and just remember that was a huge deal back then during that E3. And probably just it's my first memory of E3, and I'll go to this, and I know it's not necessarily an announcement or anything, but I just, for the sake of the show, it's about E3. It's my first memory when I first started really, really delving into video games and the magazines and everything like that and really getting into it, the culture, my first memory of E3, of knowing what an E3 was back in '99. I started reading the PSM magazine. For those of you readers out there who are as old as me, that was the 100% unofficial, unbiased PlayStation magazine. So not the one that still I think is around today where it's the official PlayStation magazine. It was unofficial. Always was really cool because they had comic book covers. Anyways, the issue that talked about E3 that summer of '99, that was my first introduction to E3. I had no prior knowledge of what E3 was or anything. So to learn that what is an E3, Electronic Entertainment Expo, that was cool. And just to look at the pictures they had and the coverage and see the show floor, see the demos and everything. And just, to me, it was amazing because this is in my infancy as what I would consider like a hardcore gamer. Like, you know, I'm really falling in love right now with video games at that point in my life. And to see and to know that that was an actuality, that I could go somewhere and, wow, all these new games that are coming out, you can demo them, and they have these press conferences, and they're just all about games, and they're talking about new release. Like, this is awesome. And just, you know, seeing the excitement behind the different developers and companies, and seeing the excitement, reading the excitement through the magazine, it was just a really cool way for me at that time to connect to the video game culture and world and E3. So from that point on, E3 has always, and I'd like to think will always be an exciting time for me every year come May or June.
So I'll jump in. So I got a couple, some sound bites. I mean, of course, I think it was 07, maybe 06, and I think Reggie was talking about the Wii, and he did the "My Body Is Ready," and it became one of my favorite memes. What a weird quote to say. And then I'll go back a couple years to, I want to say it was PSP, and Sony was unveiling it. And they were like, and we have Ridge Racer, which nobody gives a crap about, but like they were like really hyped to show that. But I think the two that really stick out of my mind, and because it shows like the back and forth between the systems where fanboys, you know, and I'm talking like the extreme fans on either side, really got butthurt and, you know, whatnot. But when Sony drops the PS3, and it's like, I want to say $600. It might have been $500, but I remember like I want to say it was $600 for like the good version, and like nobody could afford that, right? The average gamer, I was still an adult with a full-time job, and I'm like, how am I gonna afford this thing? And Sony's like, well, we believe that the gamer will save up and make cuts to their budget wherever needed to make this happen. And then, you know, there was really nothing fancy about any of their presentation other than this ridiculously expensive console, and Microsoft just they just wins the day. Man, all they had to announce was, hey guys, Xbox this year, we're going to have 3 new games, and they would have won, right? And obviously they did win that year. But the other one I think about is flash forward on the other side of that coin is in 2013, and I know you guys are gonna know where I'm going with this. Like, and it was like the perfect setup, man. Like Sony knew what the hell they were doing. They're probably like, you know what, guys, we'll let Xbox debut first. So Xbox comes out there, and they're like, guys, here's what we got, $500, connecting everyone, and fans are going, oh, okay, that's a little expensive. Connect, okay, and then they're like, 24-hour online check-in every day, and if you want to do your friend, you got this ridiculous checklist to get used games or whatever, and fans are just like, what? And then Sony's like, all right, now we know how much we're going to sell this thing for, and we're going to go ahead. And, you know, somebody was back there like, hey, dude, let's go ahead and nix the DRM right now. And then they come out there, and all they do in that press conference is they show off their system, which ideally you can almost say is like the same system as Microsoft in like a very broad nutshell, right? Like it's the next gen version. And they just say everything that people didn't like about Microsoft. Yeah, we don't have that with us. You want to let your friend borrow your game? Here's all you got to do. And they hand the guy the game or whatever. Like it was such a dirty move by Sony, you know, that I was already sold on a PS3 anyway, but the way they handled that, I was like, damn, that's cold, man. But mad props for having the balls to just go out there and just be as brutal as you could be. So those two things stick out, good or bad. I always remember that, and I'm always like, all right, who's going to be the screw up this year, because somebody's going to drop the ball.
I said if one company is going to drop the ball this year, who's dropping the ball?
You know what? Based on what we know, I'm going to say Sony's going to drop the ball.
Yeah, exact verbatim. Based on what we know right now, I would say it would be Sony dropping it.
If Microsoft drops the ball this year, that's gonna be really bad because they're set up. They've got Sony's just thrown them a nice lofty baseball, and they're just sitting there, Jose Canseco at bat. So yeah, I mean Microsoft better hit this one out of the park.
Cool. I mean, I guess if I had to go with the big three, I mean, I think it is Sony's ball to be dropped, because if they're going to just come in here haphazardly, hey, we're just going to show these 4 games, and Microsoft, like you said, comes out, you know, like a Gatling gun, just like, you know. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of developers who are going to drop the ball, you know, maybe like Ubisoft or Activision or Bethesda. Hey, we're going to have online-only games, and Ubisoft's like, yeah, all we're talking about today is Far Cry and Assassin's Creed. We're going to have 9 different Assassin's Creeds come out this year, 1 for each continent, and 2 for space.
Okay, yeah. All right, guys. Well, I hope everybody listening enjoyed our first show. It was a little bit longer, just so you guys have an awareness of where we're going for. We wanted to do something a little bit special for E3. This is our pre-E3 show. Best believe we will be back to do a full coverage of E3 after the event. To give our thoughts and opinions, to reflect on what our expectations and what our wants and desires were, and how that actually panned out in the show itself. If we had spot-on predictions, if we were completely off, whatever the case may be, but we will be back on our next show in order to bring you our opinions, thoughts, and any kind of news coverage that we could think of to bring to you about this year's E3 2018. Thanks to everybody who has listened to this. You guys subscribe. I hope you like it. Tell your friends, tell your family. I'm Bo, aka Hulking Yoda or Dante's Edge, and Mike is Linking Sponge. Rafe is Logan Phoenix. We will be your day 2 update, continuing to download until the next show. Thanks for listening.
Deuce.
Later.
For instance, PlayStation 4 won't impose any new restrictions on the use of PS4 gamers.